Imagine this. It's the dead of winter. The year is 1942, and somewhere on the endless snowy plains of Eastern Europe, soldiers on both sides of World War II are freezing, starving, and fighting in one of the most brutal and forgotten chapters of history. We often hear about D-Day, about the war in the Pacific, or the famous battles in Western Europe. But what about the Eastern Front? This was the largest and bloodiest theater of World War II, where millions of lives were lost, entire cities were destroyed, and stories of courage, survival, and tragedy unfolded, stories that rarely make it into the history books. Now, let me ask you, did you know that more soldiers died in the Battle of Stalingrad alone than in all of the battles of the Western Front combined? That's right. It was a fight so fierce that it changed the course of the entire war. But behind those statistics are the untold stories, ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances, families hiding in basements while bombs rained overhead, young men who went into battle without enough food or ammunition, and women who stepped up to become snipers, medics, and even tank drivers. The Eastern Front stretched from the icy tundra of Russia all the way to the streets of Berlin. Picture it, soldiers marching for days in snow so deep it swallowed their boots, trying to survive on frozen bread and melted snow. Imagine the sound of tanks roaring through forests and the terror of hearing planes overhead, not knowing if the bombs were about to fall on you. For many, this was not just a war between armies, but a fight for survival every single day. One story that always shocks people is about the Siege of Leningrad. The city was cut off for nearly 900 days, almost 2.5 years. Imagine your town surrounded. No food coming in, no supplies, nothing. People had to eat anything they could find, bread made from sawdust, pets, even wallpaper paste just to stay alive. Yet, somehow, they never gave up. Even in the darkest times, the people of Leningrad held on with unbelievable strength. Can you imagine the courage it took just to keep going day after day? And then there were the partisans, the resistance fighters, who lived in the forests and sabotaged enemy trains and supply lines. Many of them were teenagers, even children, who risked everything to slow down the enemy. Can you picture being just 14 or 15 years old, sneaking out at night to blow up a bridge, knowing that if you were caught, it could mean the end? That's the kind of bravery that defined the Eastern Front. Another untold story comes from the women who fought. The Soviet Union trained thousands of female snipers, and some of them became legendary. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, for example, had over 300 confirmed kills. Think about that. She was so skilled that even American President Franklin Roosevelt invited her to the White House. She wasn't just fighting for her country. She was showing the world what women could do in war. And while battles raged, civilians suffered in silence. Entire villages were burned to the ground, families torn apart. Yet there were moments of humanity. Two stories of soldiers from opposite sides secretly trading food during quiet nights, or soldiers carrying wounded enemies back to safety. These small sparks of kindness in the middle of so much destruction remind us that even in the worst of times, people could still hold onto their humanity. Now, I want you to imagine being a soldier on the Eastern Front. The average lifespan for a Soviet soldier sent to the front lines during some of the worst battles was less than 24 hours, just one day. Can you wrap your mind around that? It shows how brutal this theater of war really was. And yet, millions kept fighting, pushing forward despite impossible odds. The truth is, the Eastern Front shaped the outcome of World War II more than most people realize. It was here that Nazi Germany was pushed back, where the tide of the war truly turned. But it wasn't just about battles and strategies, it was about the everyday people who lived through it, whose voices we rarely hear today. Their sacrifices and their resilience deserve to be remembered. So the next time you hear about World War II, remember that behind the headlines and famous battles are countless untold stories of frozen trenches, starving families, fearless snipers, and young resistance fighters who refuse to give up. These are the stories that show us the true cost of war, but also the incredible strength of the human spirit. And if you've enjoyed uncovering these hidden pieces of history with me today, I'd love for you to be part of this journey. Go ahead and hit that like button. Drop a comment about which story surprised you the most. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring more forgotten chapters of our world together. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and never stop asking questions, because history still has so many secrets waiting to be told.